what can I tell you about this time? It was human life. Regardless of everything, there were quarrels and people jealous of each other and friendships were made and somebody was angry because the girl with whom she was friends went out to work with somebody else. It was human life even at the rock bottom. Towards the end I remember that I said to somebody that this is no longer like life of animals. Now we are living like plants, wanting only food and light, which was true. But somehow still there was talk about it. I never had such a success in my life as once when we were woken up, the guards kicked the door and said, "Los, los, off," and we scrambled up from the straw. And somebody said it was raining. It was pouring with rain, which was a disaster always when it rained, but of course the overcoat and the blankets, we were given 2 blankets each to lay on. Overcoat and blankets were soaking wet by the time we arrived to work. And we worked in the wet and went home and had to go to bed with the same steaming, wet clothing. So it was a disaster and everybody was looked out on the chinks of the door because, as I said, there were no windows. And we were queuing up slowly and I said out of the blue, what we need is an umbrella. I never in my life heard such a laughter. I mean, it was the funniest thing I ever have said. They repeated it for days and days. What we need is an umbrella. There was more and more room on the straw and more people died. Every hut had a so-called elder, somebody who spoke German, who was a spokesman and who understood the German orders and told it to the others. And the one in our hut was ill, and on one occasion it was me who went for her, deputizing for her to see the Obersturmscharführer, the leader of the camp, who wanted to talk to every woman who was a elder of these huts. And then I saw him for a very short distance. He was an old man and very worn out and very miserable looking. And he said that typhoid has broken out in the camp. And we looked blank, and he said that we don't know what it means. If it is not stopped, in a very short time there nobody will be alive in the camp, and that of course meant himself and the guards as well. And told us that if we want to live, we have to report every sick person in the heart. And of course the only cure was to kill the sick persons to prevent the spread of the illness. And he was really scared. It didn't occur to any of us actually to do it. He wouldn't dream of obeying. But it turned out that it was not typhoid. He was mistaken, just ordinary starvation. After a while, after months and months and months, yes, we didn't know the dates. There were no Sundays or Saturdays between working days. So it would have been probably January, we thought. One day, everybody had to go out of the huts on appel, as it was called, and we were told that we are going to leave the lager. Nobody quite knew why. Everybody was given a big chunk of bread, more than I have ever seen, and a huge bowl of margarine and some solid jelly as well, sweet jelly. Oh, again, I didn't tell you that everybody, all of us, had tied to our dresses bowl, show that anybody who had frostbite or whose feet were too bad, frostbitten or sore, had to go again this way, and the rest of them were allowed to walk the camp. Now I trotted like a soldier appeared, showing that my feet were perfectly all right, and I was allowed to go with the others. And then we left the compound slowly, swerving around the camp at a place with a road which was before out of bounds. And as we were walking, I didn't want to believe. I heard it, but I did. There was the barking of machine guns from the camp. And all those who were stayed behind were machine gunned and killed. And bit in front of me somebody started to sing the Jewish prayer for the dead, Iskadar, Iskadash. And then we went walking for a day, for 2 days. I don't know how many days we walked. Couldn't have been 4 because I couldn't have survived that much. But endlessly through highways, through meadows, January, it was very cold, and we were in groups of 5, it eventually get chaotic. And those who were very tired and couldn't bear it any longer and sat down, were shot and pushed into the ditch. And the others went on, tried not to look at each other when we heard the bang from the back. I must also tell you quickly that at one stage a lot of Polish peasants or local people stood there and waited for us because they probably must have seen people like us before with water and turnips and a few old potatoes and carrots distributing it to those who arrived there first. And it went on and on endlessly. The nights we spent in empty schools or disused barns, there was always a bit of shelter over the night. And it was, I don't know, the 3rd or the 4th day, and more people sat down to die. And we went through a town. The traffic was diverted, but there were people standing on both sides looking at us. I remember a mother with a little girl turning her little girl's face quickly towards herself that she shouldn't see us, because we were not much of a sight. Even the grown-ups, the adults, looked at us with, horror and pity. And then again it was the highway, and I reached my limit. I knew that I can't go any further. The ground was pulling you down, and I thought I gave up. At that moment, I heard from the back of the people walking, and from the back, a young girl with light blonde hair on a bicycle left the town behind us and came swerving the bicycle in between the women who were by that staggering left and right, and said in German, very loud, "Don't give up, the Russians are behind you. Don't give up, the Russians are not more than 15 miles behind you." And she swerved the bike and went through all the staggering gang, and then she disappeared. And as I wrote in my book, in all my life I tried to remember her face. But the only thing I can remember, the snow settling on her short hair.
Yeah. Okay, right.
Let's have a drink.